It was the fourth time. The fourth time Sophia fell for the brilliant man who shows up everywhere except where she needs him. She's done therapy, she's read the books, she knows the names of the patterns. And still 3 months ago, she looked at Daniel and felt that thing. It was at a dinner with friends. She can't quite remember what he said. She remembers something else. She remembers the way Daniel looked at his glass before answering, the small pause before he said what he thought, the way he smiled without fully giving the smile away. Sophia felt in her chest the same movement she used to feel at 6 years old when her father came home from work. Will he see me today? She didn't think that. Her body did. That night at home, she wrote a sentence in her journal that struck her as strange. I think I met someone real. She used the word real without noticing what she was saying. Real for her system was exactly this. Familiar down to the marrow, recognizable as the sound of her mother's voice. 3 months later, Daniel takes hours to text back. Sophia waits, not like someone being mistreated, not like someone who came home. There's a name for what happened at that dinner, and it isn't chemistry, it isn't destiny, it isn't the romantic story Sophia will tell her friends about later. In 1969, a British psychiatrist named John Bowlby proposed that every child between the 2nd and 3rd year of life build something inside themselves he called a working model. Not a memory, not a conscious belief, a map of what love looks like. This map records very specific things: how long the other person takes to respond, the face they make when you need them, whether you have to ask or whether they notice on their own, whether closeness is safe or whether closeness comes with a flinch. And here's the part that matters. Once built, this map doesn't stay stored away. It gets used. Every new relationship is read through it. Bowlby was explicit about this. He wrote that the model must be extended imaginatively to cover potential as well as actually experienced realities, meaning we automatically apply the old model to people we've just met. That's what Sophia did at the dinner. She didn't meet Daniel. She recognized him. And she didn't choose him either. Something older than choosing did. And this is where it gets strange, because we tend to think we choose partners for the obvious reasons: physical attraction, intelligence, sense of humor, shared values. Those reasons exist, but they work on an upper floor, slowly, calmly at the speed of thought. Recognition works on a floor below, faster, older, before the word. Hazan and Shaver in 1987 were the first to empirically demonstrate what Bowlby had proposed. Childhood attachment patterns persist into adult romantic choices. People who grew up with intermittent caregivers present sometimes, absent at others, with no predictable rhythm, develop a system that lights up intensely in front of intermittent partners, not despite this, because of it. Intermittency, for their system, is the sound of love. Think of someone you know, a friend maybe, the one who's always complaining about the same boyfriends. Have you noticed how she describes each of them at the beginning in exactly the same way? He's different, he's deeper. You have to meet him. And you from the outside listen and realize she's describing the previous one and the one before that. She isn't lying. She really can't see it. Her model is seeing for her, and the model only knows how to recognize one specific emotional texture. Another scene. A man who always ends up with women who ask for little. Little closeness, little contact, little demand. He's proud of this. Says he's independent, that he values space. He doesn't notice that he's repeating in every relationship exactly the degree of distance that existed in the house where he grew up. Not a coincidence. His system is working well, working to recognize what it learned to call love. Recent neuroscience, Vertica and Vuilliumier Cohen, has been suggesting something even more uncomfortable. That this emotional frequency of a partner isn't a metaphor, it's literal. One person's nervous system looks for another nervous system whose response is predictable, even when that response is painful. Predictability is worth more than comfort, for a system that learned early that comfort wasn't available. This is why the narrative that we attract who we are doesn't hold up. It isn't what we are that attracts, it's what made us. And here the channel's Latin accent asks for a pause. Bowlby thought of the bond as an internal model. An Argentine named Enrique Pichon-Rivière, around the same period, went further. He proposed that the bond is the smallest unit of the psyche, that we aren't isolated subjects who choose partners. We are bonds walking around. We carry inside us the specific shape of how we were loved, and that shape chooses for us before we know we've chosen. Sophia didn't choose Daniel. Something inside Sophia, built before she knew how to speak, recognized him. And recognition for a system old enough is indistinguishable from love. Now, at this point in the video, this is where most channels hand you the solution. Here's how to break the pattern. Here's how to attract healthy love. Do this inner work. Love yourself first and the rest will come. I'm not going to do that. And it isn't narrative laziness. It's because the literature is honest about something American wellness culture prefers to ignore. Bowlby showed that these models resist revision. Even when the adult comes into contact with contrary evidence, an available partner, a present therapist, a steady friendship. Revision is, in his words, slow, often imperfect, and sometimes it doesn't happen at all. Working models are more persistent than conscious beliefs. And this is why the question, why we choose people who can't love us back, doesn't have the answer we expect. We don't choose. The system recognizes, and what it recognizes is what it learned to call love. Sophia knows Daniel is intermittent. Sophia can explain her own pattern. Sophia has told this story in therapy, at dinner with friends, in long conversations with herself at 3 in the morning. It doesn't change anything. Because knowing isn't the level where this operates. And here's the turn that matters. The problem was never Sophia's self-esteem. It isn't that she doesn't love herself enough. It isn't that she needs to work on her inner child before she deserves someone better. That is an individualistic story, one that hands the work back inside the person, as if healthy love were a prize for psychic exercise well done. The truth is more uncomfortable. The truth is that Sophia's system only knows one shape of love, and it isn't going to learn another on its own, inside her, in the isolation of an individual journey. It can only learn another shape the way it learned the first one, in a bond, with someone, over enough time. That changes the whole question. The question is no longer, how does Sophia fix Sophia in order to attract someone better? The question becomes, what would need to be true inside a bond today, over months, over years, for Sophia's system to have a chance at building a new file, for the texture of available to stop sounding strange, for predictable to stop sounding boring. It isn't a question about Sophia, it's a question about the kind of bond that would need to exist. And it's a slow question, with no guarantee, no timeline, no certificate at the end. So what's left for Sophia? What's left for anyone who recognizes themselves in this scene? What's left isn't a method, it's a way of looking. First, the possibility of noticing recognition when it happens. That thing at the dinner, that pull in the chest that feels like destiny. Learning to look at that pull with curiosity, not as a sign that something is true, but as information about your own file. Every time the body says that one, it's worth asking quietly, who does that one remind me of? Second, living with the strangeness that available people will seem, for a long time, less attractive. Not because they're less interesting, because the old system doesn't yet know how to read calm closeness as love. It will read it as the absence of charge. It will read it as lukewarm. It will ask for the peak, the roller coaster, the recognition in the marrow. Knowing this doesn't change the sensation, but it changes what we do with it. Third, naming it when it happens, to yourself without an audience. I'm recognizing, not meeting. That sentence, said quietly in the right moment, doesn't cure anything, but it opens a small crack between the impulse and the action. There's a word in Portuguese that doesn't quite translate, Aconchego. It's a word for the specific warmth of belonging somewhere. Working models are, at their core, maps of where we first learn to feel Aconchego. And Aconchego, unfortunately, isn't the same thing as safety. It can be, but it can also be the name we gave, very early, to a specific shape of waiting. So telling one from the other, Aconchego from safety, recognition from love, is the work of a lifetime. It doesn't fit in a video, it doesn't fit in one relationship, it fits slowly in many. Sophia is still waiting for Daniel to text back. It's Thursday. He still hasn't answered what she sent on Sunday. She opens the journal. She's about to write that word again. Real. Her hand hesitates. For the first time in 4 relationships, she doesn't write. She stares at the page. And she thinks, I think I'm recognizing again. It isn't a cure. It isn't a turning point. It isn't the end of the pattern. It's a crack. And some cracks, given enough time, given enough bond, become passages. Some patterns are bigger than what a video can hold, and that's also true. If this scene found you somewhere, you might want to watch the video about the people who apologize before you're even upset. It tends to be the same person.